idea of culture. And then it quickly got snagged back.
All right, so do we have enough
It's like
time
a
to do
pension.
this?
Well, let's do it, dude. I mean, what
right.
whatever. I mean, we're already an hour over, but
All right. Okay, so you ready for my take?
Yeah.
let's hear it.
The problem is this, okay? In any situation, say me and Tony commit the same crime, right? Me and Tony commit literally the same crime. Armed robbery, whatever. Who's going to get less time?
I'll go one step further, right, and say that if Tony was the mastermind and you were just an accomplice, you would probably do more time than him.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say that and feel
Because
comfortable saying
The
that.
system is set up for minorities to fail. Period. The whole structure of racism is systematic. It's the whole purpose of it. It has nothing to do with someone being better than another person. It's systematic. It's set up. It's a system to know, okay, the minorities are here and white people are here, or whatever, who feels like they're at the top. That's how it's set up. And it's
Of what ladder, though?
the social ladder.
The social ladder?
Yes. If you really want to put it in context,
Socioeconomic, maybe?
So what
So
happens?
we'll say socio and economic, yeah.
So what happens in the black community, because I'm obviously a part of the black community, is there's a lot of self-hatred.
I didn't know that.
And you didn't know?
I know, surprise!
Surprise! Let me just tell you, no, but
Beneath the Raptor outfit.
but in the black community in Philly, in the type of neighborhoods that my family lives in, where I'm from, we're taught to not value ourselves. We're taught to not think past playing basketball, being a rapper.
By who?
Society. Society teaches us that.
Well, I think economically and socially in your area, like, and I'm not trying, but like, where you grew up in, the schools weren't as nicely kept as some of the rich area. And I'm just saying, like, it goes in any area you go into in this world. Like, when I went to school, there was an idea that when immigrants came in from New York, and they came in through New York, your biggest corruption would be across where the ocean was, or where the boats were coming into, because you didn't have enough money to grow outside of the city and go further up north or further south, further east or what. Like, you were all in the area. Like, when someone came in, a bad gangster from Italy came over, they were all confined to an area because economically they didn't have the money to expand outward. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like, kind of like where you're saying, like, what they used with minorities then is what they did with the black community in areas. But go ahead,
But yeah, like, if you look at the school systems in Philadelphia, like, I'll use this as an analogy. So, like, you look at, like, every rapper ever, right? They're like, yeah, shout out to my teacher that said I wasn't going to be shit. It's like, oh, your third grade teacher told you weren't going to be shit, Tyrone? Like, really? Really? But, like, that's the way it is in the black community. Like, we are set up to fail. No matter how you try to, it's like, well, by who? By whom? Who is setting up these parameters to say that you are not going to succeed? And look at how we were portrayed, like, say, like, minstrel shows back in the day, where, like, we were like, oh, mammy, doing dances, and we had the big lips, and we were shown as to be, like, ugly. Society deemed us as ugly because of our features, our big nose, our lips. So that trickled down effect. We started to believe that shit. We started to be like, oh, well, we're gangsters, we're this, we're rapists, this, because we had no value. Slaves were shown to have only one thing in common: to work. Nothing else. We weren't allowed to read. We weren't allowed to. We didn't know. There was nothing.
No educational value. No nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So when you go from that to going, oh, all right, like, now we know we have our own communities, because there was a whole black community. They were doctors. They had movie theaters. They got burned to the fuck.
By who, though?
White people that actually rioted the cities. They got burned down. Like, I forget the name of the town. I have to look it up. But
this is like, well, I mean, obviously this is pre-Jim Crow.
This is around that time, yeah. This is around that time. Like, they had their own system set up. Like, and it was flourishing. Gone in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
well, for fear.
Fear, exactly. Something happened in that town, and this town got raided, and it just got burned to the ground. There was nothing left from the city. And so, like, you take, like, incidents like that, and what happens is you start to believe what's said about you in these communities. Like, you think about, like, Chicago, all the shootings, they're all gangsters. There's all types of gangs and all these things because it's all they know. Like, these kids lose their fathers, they lose their uncles, their grandfathers, they're all part of gangs. You look at LA, that's all they know.
The uncle's out. The uncle's doing a 15-year
I
bid.
mean, I have a way in for the problem. A lot of the problems in the black community is the black community itself, and I think that not to play politics, but I think the left, with the welfare state perpetuates that. I think they create a system of belief to where, to make black people believe that they're victims. We're just people. We're all just people.
I don't necessarily say like that.
But you take...
We're victims. But
So the actual statistic is, I think, in the black community now, it's 75% of kids are born out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have the statistics of the household with no father figure, which I think... And then those statistics mirror regardless of race. So it doesn't matter. All the, the likeliness to drop out of school, likeliness to not have a job or commit violent crime or any of those things, and I think the lack of father figure is what it is. It makes it what's easy to go into gangs. You get a younger kid who sees an older guy and is
it
like...
It goes deeper than just a lack of fathers being...
I was going to say, because I actually grew up in the ghetto. Not a ghetto, like the Scranton ghetto. I grew up in Valley View Terrace, right? And when we were kids, like, I remember me and my brother, like, my mom was single. Like, we had a single-family household. But it's not like that is the recipe for making anyone a violent person. It's not, saying that you're not going to amount to anything. I think that's a cultural difference instead of, an environmental difference. Because all of that, had happened to me. But here I am today. Not to say that I didn't have a father figure, but growing up in my young days, I didn't. Me and my brother didn't,
Well, so, that's anecdotal evidence, but we have the statistics at this point.
Sure.
I mean, I can send some stuff afterwards if you guys want to link it.
You can throw numbers all you want about...
It's a cultural difference. It's not anything that's like, oh, well, because they grew up in the ghetto, because they were from a single family, because they, didn't do well in education, it's automatically ABC is going to equal D.
But I also think, right, and kind of with what touching up on what Will's saying, right, is the fact that, systematically, right, they're supposed to be flawed people, the African American culture, when it comes to how they portray them, right? But also, I think kind of it goes with what Ryan's saying, is the fact that, as a white man, right, I can also say the fact that, if this was the 60s, or if this was 1860, I would say that Will should have his right and his freedoms regardless, because he's a person in the country. And I think some people just look at it and go, oh, well, just white people are racist, or white people feel this way. And I think, I don't think that's been addressed either, is the fact that, in the 60s, I would have marched with a lot of those people. I would have been maybe one of those people that got killed in Alabama, who went down there to try to help black people register to vote, just because I'm passionate enough about that topic, that feeling.
I mean, it just comes down to morally, and a lot of... so this has been a hot topic discussion that I've had recently, but what it really boils down to it's racism itself isn't evil. It's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, but
a lot of the consequences of it are definitely evil, and it's
Yeah, but it's taught from generation to generation. It's a thing that of your kids and my kids, they play together, right? Children don't think of racism as color.
Kids don't give a shit.
Yeah, they just don't care.
Yeah, when I have my mother tells me one of my favorite preschool stories, and she was like, "Oh, what'd you play blocks with today at the preschool?" I'm 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, my friend Anthony." And she's like, "Oh, which little boy is that?" And I was like, "I don't know. He's one of those tan kids."
And you know what else I think, right?
That was a rural ass area too. Kids don't know. Kids don't care.
The discussion has to be had when you talk about okay, so you see people in Pennsylvania, right, and they have the Confederate flag, and you could put whatever flag you want, but at least have an understanding that you're supporting the South when you live in the North, and B, if you really don't have an understanding of what the Civil War was really about, why even have that up? You know, like a lot of people think it was about slavery, which was a big factor, but it was also big government versus small government. It was states' rights versus federal rights. You know, and people don't understand that, and they just go, oh, well, this is, you know, and I think, like, when you look at someone like in Will's situation, right, with color and everything, like, if a flag symbolized the fact that Will shouldn't have had his freedom, then it's Will's right to say that shouldn't be up there. And it's my right to support Will and say he is right in saying that. But it's also someone else's right to say...
You're talking about, like, the Confederate flag?
Yeah, like, it's really, like, those statues. Like, you're fighting about Robert E. Lee. You're fighting around General...
I don't like the fact they want to take the statues down. Flying the Confederate flag is just asinine. Put it in a museum. That's part of what it is. That's like... all the arguments that are like, this heritage, not hate, is the same thing for, like, flying a swastika. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We all know what it represents. We all know what time period it represented. We all know what the mission was. And so that flag represents that.
But don't the statues represent it too?
Yeah, I guess, but then what are we going to take? Like, Washington off Washington had slaves.
No, but here's my thing.
Most of the guys on money had slaves. We're going to take them off. Like, where do you draw the line?
Even Abraham Lincoln had slaves at one point in time.
Well, actually, that was part of the reason they put him on the penny, was like as a thing of disrespect to give him the least amount. That was like a diss.
And you know what also, right, is the fact that, like...
Google that.
And he's the only president to be on the front and back of the same coin. Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
But anyway, when it comes down to it, right, is the statues and everything from the South, right, really aren't supposed to be there for two reasons. One, right, is that if the South won, the story would be told differently, and you wouldn't have any emblems of the North. They wouldn't allow a Washington or Lincoln because it would have been history would have been told differently. But they didn't win that battle.
Yeah, but if you look at any history book in America, regardless of where you are, like, you know, everybody has a good and a bad story to tell.
Yeah, but these guys revolted against the federal government.
Well, yeah. I mean, just in general, like, the United States of America was built on the reclamation of the Indian people, and where they slaughtered, raped, and killed the Indian people that take the 13 colonies.
Story.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus story.
Well, I mean, the true, it's everybody's racist depending on where you want to draw the line in history, because the Indians weren't the first fucking people here either. We didn't really slaughter the Indians as much as smallpox did. True story. I mean, the Trail of Tears is awful, obviously. You know, these are all, you know, heinous things. But when you really look at a history book, you got to be like, all right, well, where do we draw the line? Everybody's like, religion, the Crusades. And the Crusades were payback for however many thousands of years of persecutions from all the Middle East.
But now, back to what Will had said.
How do you feel about the statues?
I don't give a fuck.
You don't?
I don't care.
Do you put them on the same plane as the flag?
Because you would say the flag is a symbol of racism. Would you?
The Confederate flag?
I know the context of the flag. I know the real reason behind that whole situation. So I'm kind of like torn, but like I don't feel like people should be riding around with, you know, Confederate flag stickers and all that stuff. It's like, all right, you know what I mean? It's just weird to me.
Yeah, like why? Especially in northeastern Pennsylvania, if we're going to go there.
Yeah, it's a part of
the North, dude.
It's a part of history, but like it's like, all right, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I understand your neck is a little red, get it, but like, calm it down. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just, but like what I'm saying about the black community is this: there are a lot of documentaries out there you should check out, particularly with children, black children. There's the doll experiment. And you go, which one of these? It's like the doll experiment. They go, which one of these dolls is more pretty than the other one? They have a black doll and they have a white doll. They're asking African American children. And then all the children go, oh, the white doll. Well, they go, why? Well, the children go, well, look at the features of a black doll. Look at the hair. Like, in schools today, still today, black children can't wear their natural hair. Afros,
that's
braids.
obnoxious.
And that's another thing for, like, watching black girls go, well, I don't like my hair. I want my hair to be straight because it's viewed as ugly because if they walk around with an afro or their natural hair, it's unkept, it's nappy. So there's all of these factors that go against black people that actually hate who they are as people. Like,
right, and societally, I'm full on board with him that shit needs to change, especially in the work environment. It's absurd to not, like, you guys have different hair. That's it. Someone with that kind of heritage has different hair. There's only so many things you can do to ask. So, that's a piece of institutional racism where I actually back that up. So you have a workplace and like, you have to have hair. So